In a high school classroom shows Phil Hartman seated behind a teacher's desk. A bell rings and all the students leave the room except Chris Farley. Farley approaches Hartman's desk and says, "You wanted to see me, Mr. Peppercorn?" Hartman, "Yes, Bobby, I did. Why don't you take a seat?" Farley sits at the desk closest to Hartman's desk. Hartman, "Bobby, as you know, I wanted the class to come up with poetry for this week's homework assignment." Farley, "Of course, Mr. Peppercorn. I had so much fun with the assignment. I did more poems than you asked for." Hartman, "Well, Bobby, I'm afraid the poems you came up with were too inappropriate for you to read in front of a high school class." Farley, "Really? Why do you say that?" Hartman takes out pieces of loose-leaf paper from a folder and says, "Well, let's start with the first one. Dear Kelly, my nuts are smelly. I wish you'd rub jelly on my big fat belly." Farley, "Mr. Peppercorn, you know Kelly. She sits in front of me. I have a big crush on her. I thought if I read that poem in front of the class that it would score me some points with her." Hartman, "Be that as it may, why did you think it was appropriate to say your, quote, nuts are smelly?" Farley gets up and starts to remove his pants and says, "Well, they are, sir. Here, take a smell." Hartman, "Please sit back down, Bobby. That won't be necessary." As Farley pulls up his pants and sits back down, Hartman says, "I didn't doubt the veracity of the claim, Bobby, but talking about your private parts is not appropriate for a poem." Farley, "Oh, okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Peppercorn." Hartman, "As for your next poem, I went to a shrink because my nuts stink. I wish Kelly would uplink with my dinky dink." Farley, "Dinky dink means my penis, sir." Hartman, "That makes it far worse than I thought. I was going to say it was inappropriate to say your, quote, nuts stink." Farley, "Sorry about that, sir." Hartman, "The next one goes, Carly, you are gnarly. I'm lazy and you are crazy, but I don't mind nutting in a nut right in your naughty little butt." Farley, "I also have a crush on Carly, sir." Hartman, "You know she was just diagnosed with schizophrenia, don't you?" Farley, "Yeah, that's why I called her crazy in a nut, but I showed her love by saying I'd nut in her butt." Hartman, "I hope you understand how completely inappropriate that is." Farley puts his head down and says, "Yes, sir." Hartman, "And the next one goes, oh, Lily, you make me feel silly. I wish you'd break up with Billy and play with my big Willie." Farley, "I have a crush on Lily too, sir, but she's with that jock, Billy Smith." Hartman, "My problem with the poem is the euphemism, my big Willie." Farley, "I'm sorry, sir." Hartman, "And finally, perhaps the most vile of your poems, you wrote, on my ball there is a lump that I feel while taking a dump. The only thing I'd rather do than hump is cast a vote for Donald Trump." Farley, "Trump 2024, woo-hoo!" Hartman, "First of all, do you really have a lump on one of your testicles?" Farley, "No, it just rhymes with Trump." Hartman, "Now, as inappropriate as everything else that you wrote earlier was, saying that you're going to vote for Donald Trump is the most inappropriate of them all." Farley, "It is?" Hartman, "Of course. Why, if it were up to Trump, you wouldn't have been able to do this assignment." Farley, "Really?" Hartman, "Yes, really. Not only is Trump a threat to democracy, he's a threat to poetry." Farley, "I'm sorry, Mr. Peppercorn, sir. I didn't know that." Hartman, "Now, instead of giving you detention for these poems, I want you to come up with a clean one before I let you leave." Farley, "Let's see, Once when I was just 5, I was hungry and ate a beehive. The stings I received were very jive, and dead from the earth were not alive." It's Saturday Night Alive, starring John Belushi, Chris
Farley, Phil Hartman, Jen Hooks, Norm McDonald, Gilda Radner, Denitra Vance, and with many other special deceased contributors. Musical guest, Leon Russell, and your host, James Coburn. Everybody, James Coburn. Applause, applause, applause. Shows Coburn on stage who says, "Thank you, thank you." I was a film and television actor who was featured in more than 70 films, largely action roles, and made 100 television appearances during a 45-year career. I was a tough guy in numerous leading and supporting roles in westerns and action films, such as The Magnificent Seven, Hell is for Heroes, The Great Escape, Charade, Our Man Flint, In Like Flint, The President's Analyst, Hard Times, Duck You Sucker, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and Cross of Iron. In 1998, I won an Academy Award for my supporting role as Glenn Whitehouse in Affliction. And in 2002, I received a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Miniseries nomination for producing The Mists of Avalon. Applause, applause, applause. Coburn. And in its 7th season, I hosted Saturday Night Live. In my monologue, John Belushi comes out. Coburn. "Hey, John, I was just about to tell the audience about my SNL monologue." Belushi. "Can I give you some advice, Jim?" Coburn. "Sure." Belushi. "No one wants to hear about your monologue from when you were on SNL. For this monologue here to get any traction, you got to talk about something that's controversial." Coburn. "I do?" Belushi. "Yeah, here, say what you were going to say about your SNL monologue." Coburn. "Okay, well, in my SNL monologue, Eddie Murphy asked me if I could order him drinks at the after party, since he was only 20 years old at the time. For an idea of how long ago this was, Eddie's now 62. Belushi. "No, see, what you want to say is that Eddie came up to you all tough and purposely spilled his drink on you, and you called him the N-word and punched him out." Coburn. "But that's not what happened." Belushi. "But that's going to get everyone revved up. Go ahead, try it." Coburn turns to the audience and says, "During my SNL monologue, that punk Eddie Murphy came up to me, and he spilled his drink all over my leather jacket. So I called him the N-word, and I punched his black ass out." The crowd boos. Coburn. "Hey, John, I thought that story was supposed to help me. I'm being booed." As Belushi leaves the stage, he says, "Sorry about that, Jim. I was just fucking with you." Coburn turns to the audience and says, "Sorry about that last story, folks. It didn't really happen. Eddie just wanted me to buy him drinks at the after party. Anyway, we have a great show tonight. Leon Russell is here, so get ready for a song for you. We'll be right back."